So the only thing that I did this morning, which you can probably tell, was to wash my face and my teeth and to not comb my hair, to just go straight into a study mode, which I was doing until fairly little while ago, where I decided that I should film a video because why not, and talk to you on my pajamas and do what I would like to call a pajama talk. So I'm just gonna roll with that and pretend that you can see that I haven't combed my hair, and we'll just roll with this. Hello beautiful bookworms, my name is Katarina and welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be doing a pajama talk for a thing that I really wanted to discuss since I read the book, which obviously is what I do in this channel. I discuss stuff because I read books, so not a lot of new things there, is there? So yeah. But what I wanted to talk about today is kind of something that I really think is adequate to the fact that I am on my PJs and just want to talk a little incoherent stuff about Stephen King. And you guys might think, well, where that came from? And that came from the fact that I just read Dr. Sleep a while ago. And if you don't know, Dr. Sleep is kind of a continuation to The Shining, if you will. So obviously you can read Dr. Sleep if you haven't read The Shining, but it isn't recommended in a way because there are some references in Dr. Sleep that have to do with The Shining, namely characters, namely events, and namely places, or even the supernatural threat / abilities are mentioned and explained first in The Shining and then brought back in Dr. Sleep. So for me to read Dr. Sleep, I decided I should reread The Shining, which I did last year in October, I believe, for a readathon. And yeah, so I did, and I enjoyed it, but then I started seeing some similarities between The Shining and Dr. Sleep, and I thought that I should think of and talk about that with you guys to see if any of you have noticed anything like this, if you've read these books or not, what you think about them, and basically I just wanted to do a very relaxing conversation about these things because I think that lacks on my channel. Like, I want to talk about a lot of things, but I don't. So I just decided to call these kinds of things pajama talks, and I will be on my pajama, fairly chill and relaxing and just talking with you about stuff that I feel like is important for some reason or that I just enjoyed. So because these books are very heavy together, I just put them down and I'm going to start talking about things that I think that are important to mention about these books. So to begin with, I just want to do a disclaimer that this is not going to be a review for The Shining or for Dr. Sleep. So for The Shining, I have a review that I have made and that I will try and remember to leave link down below if you guys want to go and watch it. But for Dr. Sleep, I don't have a review about it because I only fairly recent read it. I finished it in April, and I decided I don't want to make a review because, first of all, because it would spoil some of the things of The Shining if I did, and second of all, because I really just want to talk about topics and my overall enjoyment and not really do like a cohesive, coordinated review. So this is going to be a very incoherent video, and that's the way that I want it to be. So that's just a disclaimer for you guys. So obviously spoilers for those of you that haven't read The Shining or watched the movie, although, and I'm going to get into that fairly later, I do believe that the movie doesn't portray the same thing that the book portrays, and for that reason, I do believe that if you watched only the movie, you can read Dr. Sleep, obviously, but you won't take from it the same things that I did while reading the book, because The Shining is kind of essential in a way to understand some of the things that Dr. Sleep has, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. So firstly, of course, you pretty much all know, if you're here, the story of The Shining, which is about this small kid that moves in with his parents into the Overlook Hotel, which is a vacancy hotel that his dad is going to be taking care of throughout the entire winter. And the main character of The Shining is not as much the kid, Danny, which like you believe that he's supposed to be the main character because he is a kid that has this power called The Shining, where he can sense some other worldly things. Like he can sense dead people, he can see them, his search for them for some reason that is then explained later on Doctor Sleep. And you basically believe that he's the main character because a lot of chapters are, although in third person, are see through his eyes. So you would believe that he's the main character, but he's not. The main character of The Shining, in my personal opinion, is Jack Torrance. And Jack Torrance is the father of Danny and husband to Wendy Torrance. And he is an alcoholic trying to recover. And because he got sacked from his job as a teacher, he is trying to just get that job to be the last opportunity that he has to take care of his family and to publish another book, because he was an English professor, I believe, and he had a book published, but then he just lost his writing thing, and so he's gonna go to the hotel in order so that he can write and so that he can provide for his family. Right in here you see that one of the main themes of The Shining is alcoholism and addiction to something, namely drinking. And the way that Stephen King writes this is fairly profound in a way, and it's done, I believe, with knowledge, because he himself, I think, had a problem with drinking, and he himself went with his wife to an almost empty vacancy hotel. So I am not really sure of what is real in a way and what is not in the portrayal of Jack Torrance that has to do with Stephen King, but I think that you can look at these two books, The Shining and Doctor Sleep, as being a complement of each other. So The Shining, you have a main character that is an alcoholic and is an addict, and that chooses to isolate himself to just try and get a last shot and to just try and provide for his family and to just do it by himself. And on Doctor Sleep, you have another main character, which in this case is Danny, the son, older, and he is also struggling with alcoholism, which is something that you get fairly angry when you start reading the book, because pretty much all of the problems that happen in The Shining, discarding supernatural forces that want to feed on Danny's life energy, so to speak, was mainly because of Jack Torrance's addiction. So you would think that Danny has suffered enough through the drinking indirectly to now be an alcoholic himself, and you would ask yourself, why have you done this? Why are you now this despicable person that I really want to like but I can't, because you know how much you suffered through with this and now you're getting yourself addicted to it? Why are you doing that? And obviously it's fairly understandable why Danny is in Doctor Sleep a character that drinks, a character that is not that a hero kind of character, a character that, if you've read The Shining, you feel fairly angry at him, that he is not as nice as he should be, he is not the little boy that you've met anymore, he's a grown-up that is just trying to fight through his life and all of his visions and all of his power growing, and you know that he gets drunk in order to stop that power from manifesting itself and in order to just not worry himself with his life and the way that things are becoming. So there are two very similar characters in the beginning of each book. So The Shining and Doctor Sleep. You have two main alcoholic characters, although one of them you understand in a way why he does it, but you don't really enjoy it because of what sadness he brings to his family, and the other one you get fairly angry at him because you know what he suffered because of his dad doing it, and you don't want him to do that, and you think you're becoming as despicable as your dad, and you get fairly angry at him. But then is where things just go in a different way, because whilst in The Shining you have Jack Torrance getting isolated, being alone, just trying to work it off and write and take care of an hotel to get some money and go there with his family and just get alone, you have a Danny Torrance that is already alone. So he has no one to turn to. But then he gets to this small town, and the thing that he does there is he asks for help. And this is one of the main differences between The Shining and Doctor Sleep, which I think make them complement themselves. Because in The Shining, you have the struggles of an alcoholic that doesn't ask for help, doesn't think that there's anything wrong. Well, he knows that there's something wrong with him, but just refuses to say it. And he just cuts completely with the drink because of an accident that happened. And he just refuses to ask for help, to say what is wrong, and to just get treatment. And then in Doctor Sleep, you have a character that recognizes that something wrong is happening and that he can't go on like that, and that asks for help and gets therapy and gets help and is in an Alcoholics Anonymous group and just moves on with his life. And I think that these two books represent, maybe, this is just me speculating, so don't take it my word for it, but I do believe that you have two sides of Stephen King in these two books. And in the first one, you have a character that he can relate to, a character that he is just suffering from this addiction, but he can't seem to be able to stop. And he is just going down and down and down the rabbit hole and just getting even worse without understanding and without asking for help of the people that should be able to help him. And then on Doctor Sleep, you have the other side of addiction. The side that says, I'm sorry, the side that works it off, the side that tries to be a better person and that knows that it hurts and that you will always feel a craving for that thing, but you can get better. And I think that that's just a very hard difference in The Shining and Doctor Sleep, because in Doctor Sleep you have the positive side of addiction, you have the positive side of a story, and in The Shining you have the darkness, you have a dark side of a story, you have a construction of chaos and decadence and an end. And in Doctor Sleep you have beginnings, you have the construction of getting better, you have the almost happily ever after kind of thing, which you don't have in The Shining. And I think that that's also why I appreciated both of them, but I like The Shining better in a way, because as you probably know if you've been in this channel, I do enjoy dark, gritty sort of things. And as a psychologist in formation, I am attracted to the dark side of things, like, as it is a part of my course, I have taken some few curriculars on addiction and how it works. And although Doctor Sleep portrayed a recovery, I think it was just so easy. I'm not saying it was easy to write for Stephen King, and I'm not saying that it was easy for the main character to live it. I'm just saying that it sounded easier in a way. It sounded like you just had to want it. And although you always had those cravings, everything would be okay, which is something that I don't feel a lot of people that have an ongoing big addiction feel. And that's just a personal opinion, which doesn't mean that this hasn't come from a place of knowing. Obviously, I haven't been an addict and I've never been addicted to anything. So, except maybe gum, but obviously I'm joking, like it's not the same thing. But obviously I'm not discarding all of the personal feels and all of the personal experiences of Stephen King that went into these books. But I'm just saying that I prefer The Shining in a way, first because it was a true horror book, not in a way that it was scary as hell, although it had some parts that you could feel a tingling sensation on yourself, but because it was a book about human destruction, like self-destruction in a way, and how your family and how ultimately yourself will pay for what you've been doing to yourself. And I think it was a very dark way of Stephen King showing how that addiction in particular could be interfering with his life maybe, or could be interfering with some people that he loved or something like that. I have no idea. But I think it was fairly well constructed, and I absolutely loved the story. Doctor Sleep I liked, but I don't think it was the same thing because it was so positive. It was like he was trying to redeem Jack Torrance throughout Danny Torrance. And I will get to that in a moment, but in the end of the book, or fairly in the end, well, not really in the end, you have some explanation for why some of those supernatural beings wanted to get Danny Torrance and to go after him. It was obviously because of his shining. They wanted to consume it, to be powerful, to be able to live. And in the end of Doctor Sleep, and now I'm going to spoil the end of Doctor Sleep, okay? You have Jack Torrance appearing as a ghost to Danny. And the only thing that he does is just waving at him, and just, they are fairly apart. They are in one side of the place and the other one in another side of the place. And that is seen for me as a redemption of Jack Torrance's character. So he got his redemption throughout his son, Danny Torrance, because Danny was able to ask for help. He was able to be bold and courageous and do the right thing and be a good man, not only surpassing his drinking problem, but also helping someone that needed his help desperately. He spends the entire book helping people to die, and that's why he's called Doctor Sleep. And this is not a spoiler, he works in a place where he helps old people dying. And then he helps one of the other main characters to just know her gifts and to surpass one of the many dangers that come after her. And I think that this was for Stephen King a redemption of Jack Torrance because he loved that character so much. And I think that that is also why he got so angry at the movie, The Shining. Because in that movie, you don't have such a character development of Jack Torrance that you can see that he's not happy with his life and what he's doing. Because in the end of The Shining and in the end the book and in the end of the movie, the endings are different. And in the end of the book, you can see that he worries more about his family and doesn't want to destroy it, although he's already a creature purely made of evil and of a complete giant psychosis, if you ask me. And in the end of the movie, you don't see that concern. You see someone completely overcome by supernatural forces, which wasn't what Stephen King was getting to. He was getting to the fact that he himself, as an addict, he himself was kind of being controlled by his addiction in a way, and not the supernatural forces were just an excuse for this to be a horror book, in my opinion. But I don't know, obviously you can quote me because I never interviewed Stephen King and I never talked to him about this, but this is just how I feel about The Shining and Doctor Sleep. So because Doctor Sleep has a lot of characters that appear in The Shining and has a lot of family genealogy that has to do with The Shining, I would suggest that if you want to read Doctor Sleep, for you to just read The Shining first. Firstly, because it is a good book. I really enjoy reading The Shining. Is not as scary as some people would like, but I think that it has that tingling sensation in the back of your neck because you're seeing a story from a child and an alcoholic abusive father, and it's a family alone in the middle of nowhere, and those three things already are three things that can be the fuel of nightmares if you wanted to, which Stephen King did, and so it is. But also because when you go and read Doctor Sleep, you see so many parallels. You see so many shrines of redemption. You see so many picking up something and developing it. And the Overlook Hotel does appear in Doctor Sleep again. Not in the same way that in The Shining, and I'm not going to spoil you how, but it appears on Doctor Sleep and it has a prominent part of the story. So yeah. That is kind of it. So this was fairly incoherent in a way, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about this and the parallels that I've seen throughout the two books when I've read them. So yeah, this is not really a review, it's just to talk about stuff, so I hope that you guys enjoy this. And if you've read the books, tell me down below what you thought of them and if you think that my kind of analogy is correct or not. I have no idea, but yeah, I would love to know your opinion. If you disagree with me, I would also love to know why and your opinion on the matter. So yeah, that is all for today, guys, and happy readings to you all. Bye!